Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here with a video, as always, in World of Warships, where today we're going to be featuring the große Kurfürst. I'll just be referring to it as, in short, the GK. Here in Dirigible Derby, I have two clips, or two matches for you. This first one is going to take only 5 minutes of the video, and then the second video, or battle, is going to be the main focus for today's discussion and highlighting and reviewing the GK. But this first battle, I have it in 3 different clips. These 2 first clips are just showing the GK at long range. The GK has a very wildly inaccurate main battery at long range. She's really meant to get to 12 kilometer and closer for the main battery to start really becoming effective. But the GK has something in common with the Tier 6 Japanese battleship, the Fuso. The Tier 6 Japanese battleship, the Fuso, is known for it has a lot of guns at the tier, and also an inaccurate battery. But you throw enough crap at the wall, some of it is bound to stick. So we were able to get the booster. We did some damage, I think it was to Salem in that first clip, if I'm not mistaken. And now with a fully intact health pool, we are pushing the primary objective of Dirigible Derby here at the end. I talked about Dirigible Derby, I think it was last week or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, where I talked about the 2 main objectives is escorting the airship and securing the end zone, the destination point. And that is what I'm doing here in the GK today. The German battleships, I have found especially so for the FDG, the GK, and even the Preußen, is that these ships at high tier are really meant to, in my opinion, you save the brawling for the last half of the battle and pushing in. So in the beginning of this battle, I was playing a little bit with the more long range fighting. We weren't doing a whole lot, but we were able to take out that booster naturally along the enemy escort airship red line, as we just take out the Napoli there. So we're focusing a little bit on the long range, and now we've pushed in to exert having a full health pool before we enter this final fight here, and securing our airship and holding back the enemy airship. We're doing a bit of kill securing here, so we've taken out the enemy GK, and now we have this Thunderer here, and he's giving us too much side. And this is where you begin to really see that this 420mm battery at close range really comes into play here. You can take the 420mm, or I think the other main battery option, I think is 406mm, if I'm not mistaken. The 406mm has a faster reload, 420mm a little longer, but I prefer having the larger size shell and doing damage, even if it means the reload is slightly longer. Nothing bad by any means. The biggest downside and flaw to the GK is her forward firing angles on her rear turrets. You have to show a lot of side in order to get the rear turrets off if you're pushing into an enemy objective, to cap or anything like that. So you're often going to be showing a lot of side in the GK, or even broadside. Her armor's good, but she has this turtle back, which means you're probably going to eat, you don't eat citadels all the time, but you're going to be eating a lot of penetrations, much more than normal, also because of the poor forward firing angles of the rear turrets. The Preußen, I think, is a better, in that regard, that it has a better forward firing angle turret degree than the GK. So it doesn't feel as terrible. It feels better, like you're able to angle, use your rudder a bit more. Where GK, you're not going to be able to get your ship, after firing the rear turrets off, get the rear turret, the rear of the ship back in the main line. Not showing too much side is what I'm trying to say, in time before the enemy can punish you. Whereas I find it more easy to do that in the Preußen. I'll be doing probably a comparison video on the GK and Preußen more later, but just know that's kind of the differences in regards to the GK and the Preußen in that regard. So this is just going to quickly show you the end results of this first battle, that we took second place on the team. We didn't exert a lot of our influence until the very end there. And again, I think that it really works well for the secondary brawling battleships, especially at high tier, like here in the GK, because there's nothing subtle about the GK. She has a very poor concealment range, and that will get you detected very quickly. And on top of that, the GK is, the hull of the ship is very wide, and it's a long ship. I think she has the second largest health pool of any battleship in the game. And I'm not acknowledging the super ships in the game right now. So you have a lot of health to work with. However, because of how much side you're often having to show to get your rear turrets firing, the hugeness of the ship, how wide it is, and the poor concealment, you are often eating a lot of HE, and you attract a lot of attention because of that, because you're kind of this German battleship that's not slow by any means, but she's just a large, big target and easy to hit in that regard. So now I say that, and you're going to see an enemy battleship player have a very hard time landing any salvos on me. So I'm not sure what's up with that. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So I've highlighted a few things, even that the WoW's Wiki acknowledges. I'm not going to read the whole thing on the GK. I'll put the link into this if you want to read the player opinion on the performance. But what I'm going to read is just the pros and cons, make it simple, straightforward. The GK, as I said, has the second highest health pool in the game, and that is in regards to not including super ships. Very heavily armored with thick deck armor and well-protected extremities. The Citadel sits below the waterline, is protected by a turtleback. The turtleback armor scheme, which I'll show you tomorrow, is pretty infamous on German ships, especially the battleships, making Citadel penetrations from surface ships almost impossible. It has one of the heaviest AP broadsides for a Tier 10 battleship, equal to American counterpart, the Montana, when equipped with the 420mm guns, which we have on the GK here in this battle. And know that this is now more in comparison when you have the Tier 10 Italian battleship, the Columbia. We have more and more of these ships getting heavier broadsides, like Vermont as an example. Has one of the strongest secondary batteries in the game with good durability, shell volume, and ability to penetrate 32mm plating without the use of the IFHE skill. So I don't take IFHE on the GK. I see no need to it because I can already pin that with the existing secondary battery. Her access to the hydroacoustic search consumable with long duration and acquisition range. It should be 6 kilometers for ships, 4 kilometers for torpedoes, if I'm not mistaken. And before I read the cons briefly, this Montana player I'm talking about here, he's going to be throwing a lot of shells at us, and I'm not sure why he's having quite such a difficult time landing shells on us. But you're going to see our potential damage is going to go up here very quickly, here shortly, so let me read the cons. Cons, one of the largest ships in the game, very difficult to sail unspotted, evade shots, or disengage. Enormous superstructure can be easily damaged and set on fire. Rather inadequate main turret armor for a brawling battleship. Aft main turrets have very poor firing arcs. Fairly short main battery range, even shorter with her unique upgrade installed. Main battery HE shells have poor damage per minute and fire chance. Poor torpedo protection. The A suite is fairly weak, especially at short range, and a massive turn radius and slow rudder shift time. So here is me talking more about what I find to work with the German battleship line in terms of the brawling capabilities. Here you're going to see us taking a lot of attention from the enemy team as they move along. We're pretty much wholly bow in to most enemy team. As you can see, all those red ships firing at us from behind those islands, and our potential damage is just going up and up. The thing that I have found very useful, honestly, in any battleship, I mean, lower tier battleships may be a bit harder to do this with, is playing with your propulsion. So most of the damage we've avoided is just playing with our throttle. So a lot of those shells fired at us landed short because we had stopped and now we are reversing. And we're just going to keep playing with our throttle, going forward, going reverse. I am divisioned up with my two clanmates, Doom Beagle and Sergeant Murder. I'm taking a lot of attention from the enemy team, which is going to allow Sergeant. He's going to be moving up in a bit more of an aggressive position here shortly in his GK. why I kind of draw the attention out here in the open. What I'm trying to keep circling back to in regards to potential damage and all that is that I have found, because once the commander rework of 0.10.0, it really messed with people wanting to push in and brawl. That was mainly because of the skill Wargaming introduced and removed in update 10.4, which was called Deadeye. Increase your accuracy when you're undetected and firing on enemy ships. So that made it hard, along with the HE spam meta that you find at the higher tiers, 9 and 10 in particular, and now super ships. It made it very hard to push in and brawl compared to what you used to be able to in the game. And with the immense size of something like the FedEx der Grosse, the Grosse Kurfürst, the Preußen, these large ships with poor concealment, there's nothing subtle about being able to push in against enemy team, is that you're often fighting more. What I have found works best for me with German battleships is playing a little bit more at the mid to long range for the first half of the battle, and then as the battle progresses, then pushing in with the GK, with that turtleback armor, with the hydroacoustic search. I have found that is the remedy of success for me, along with utilizing islands when you're brawling and you're pushing in on enemy ships. You're going to see me use some islands here to help with my health. I'm trying to move behind this island here in front of me, and you can see that I'm just beneath half health right now, and you're going to see that my health pool evaporates pretty quickly because I know I'm a bit more vulnerable here. Sergeant has pushed up in a more aggressive position. He's got some more of the islands between him and those in front of him. But to get behind the island here, I'm going to have to turn and show side to the point of showing broadside. And I have a Preußen and a GK both looking at me. So that hurt. That hurt even more. And so our health gets really low, but we're going to have a repair party come up in 15 seconds. So we're going to slow down here and try to get healed up before we push out and engage. So already 3.2 million damage and, or sorry, 3.2 million potential damage and over 144,000 damage. Even when I've played, I found the FDG the struggle. I found it to be a really struggle bus to play because you have a lot more ships that, again, at the higher tier, you have some of these accurate battleships like Yamato, Musashi, Vermont, Montana, Iowa, you know, the list goes on. We're trying to fight push in and brawl at the beginning of any match is going to get you killed. I know that in the player base, you'll see people commenting, let's say there's a GK on, for example, the HG line in this map. And you're back there like, hey, you're a brawling battleship. You got to push in, you got to push forward. And so players feel pressured to have to push in to fight when realistically it's going to get them killed, because it's even very hard to dodge torpedoes in the Grosse Kurfürst. Even if you have hydroacoustic search up, you're basically minimizing the damage of how many torpedoes you're going to take. So if you're in a brawling battleship, a lot of players just feel this pressure or this idea, I have to push in immediately, the first 5 minutes, first 10 minutes of the battle per se. And that's not the case. You can find the window of opportunity of when to push up and when to push in. I have rarely found that to occur in the very first half of a battle, finding the window of opportunity. Usually I'm utilizing islands or the enemy team is just not present on the flank. But what's really nice about here in Dirigible Derby is that it is a brawling game mode, and I think Wargaming has done really well in introducing this game mode because, as you see on the mini-map, it forces players to fight against each other in close quarters combat and brawling. Because if you don't protect your airship, you don't escort or slow down the enemy airship, then that just results in the enemy team winning, because if you fight on the back line the entire battle, the enemy team is going to win every time. So that's kind of where even the map control becomes very important here. So this is highlighting the GK and what I like to play. In brief summary, just focus on playing mid to even more 12 kilometer to 16 kilometer range first half of the battle. and then you can push in the last half of the battle and really exert your influence and make your presence known. So we're going to take over 385,000 credits, over 152,000 damage. We got 3 destroyed. We didn't do too much secondary damage in this game, but this was showing you more of what I've been talking about, taking your time before you push in and make your presence known, just because the sheer size of the ship makes it hard to do anything other than being subtle in that regard. So we're going to get over 1,600 base experience with Sergeant taking the cake up top. So we were able to work that really well when he pushed in, as I drew a lot of the attention. Here you can see the damage layout. We did get rid of that pesky Petropavlovsk. We found him broadside to us, so we're going to end him rather quickly. And still ending with almost 3.3 million potential damage. And with premium accounts and this being a premium ship, we're going to have 319,000 credits taking home in total. So I hope you enjoyed this video and talking a little bit more about the GK. I'll try to link some other discussions that I've had with brawling and of the GK at the end of this clip. You can check out and watch, even talking a little bit about the FTG there as well. People have been asking me, is the GK worth getting for coal in the armory? Yes, I mean, I was able to get the GK for silver for credits before they moved it to the armory for coal, before they replaced it with the Preußen. I have so far have enjoyed playing the Preußen a bit better because it has almost 18-inch guns. It's 17.99-inch guns on the Preußen, and I find that I'm not ricocheting as much as I do with the 420mm battery versus the 457mm battery you find on the Preußen versus the 420mm on the GK. And the forward firing angles being much better than the Preußen, GK, sorry. I think there are other ships in the armory that you should probably get first for coal before going for GK if you're a newer player. I don't think you're really missing out on anything huge with the GK. The ship in terms of handling and concealment, everything is pretty much identical to Preußen, except Preußen has a better AA battery, and the main battery is given a higher rating because of the quicker reload time, even though you have less guns. So I'll do more of a comparison contrast between GK and Preußen, but you pretty much have already gotten the idea, I think, between my discussion on Preußen, which we've already done an upgrade and commander build video on and featured the ship, and here with the GK. So but the ship's never worth buying for doubloons, because I know Wargaming was briefly selling it for doubloons in the armory. So, on that note, if you liked today's video, give it a thumbs up. If you did not, give it a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you're subscribed, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And we'll catch you here tomorrow with an upgrade and commander build of the GK. Take care.